Good evening. Now listen. I want you to hear me when I say this. Talent is a gift, but discipline is a choice. See, we all love to talk about talent, that natural spark, that raw ability. You know what I'm talking about. The voice, the footwork, the numbers, the grades, the way you write, the way you act, the way you run. That's talent, and talent is beautiful. But let me tell you something. You ever meet someone who walks into a room and just lights it up? Charisma, style, voice, presence, you can feel their talent. It's undeniable, and for a moment they have all your attention, but here's the truth. The moment will pass, the shine fades, the applause dies down. And when that moment is gone, what's left is discipline. See, talent is like a key. It gets you in the room. It opens doors, sometimes fast, sometimes easy. But here's what most people don't realize: staying in that room. Making an impact in that room, growing in that room, that takes something much deeper. It takes structure, it takes intention, it takes grit. That's discipline. Think about it. How many people do you know who had all the potential in the world but couldn't hold on to it? Couldn't manage their time, couldn't take feedback, couldn't commit to the process. It's not that they weren't good. They just didn't build the habits to sustain that greatness. We live in a culture obsessed with highlights. But discipline isn't about the highlight. It's about what happens before and after the moment in the spotlight. It's about the preparation no one sees and the persistence no one claps for. It's waking up early when nobody's watching. It's choosing to improve when you've already been praised. Psychologists talk about the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Extrinsic motivation is when you're driven by reward, praise, money, status. Intrinsic motivation is when you're driven by purpose, by process. That's where discipline lives. Discipline is what shows up after the applause ends. It's the internal engine that keeps running when the crowd walks away. And philosophically, think about this: talent is a chance, but discipline is a choice. You don't get to choose how much talent you were born with. That's just the hand you were dealt. But you choose how hard you work. You choose how often you show up. You choose whether you sharpen that talent or let it sit dull on a shelf. And when you walk into a room, whatever room, you're called to know this. Staying in that room, thriving in that room, earning your place in that room over and over again. That has nothing to do with talent anymore. That's discipline, and the ones who last, the ones who rise, the ones who matter. They're not just the most gifted, they're the most prepared. So I'll leave you with this: talent gets you noticed. Discipline gets you remembered, and if you want to be remembered, do the work. Now here's where it gets uncomfortable, because it's easy to show up when you feel good, when the motivation is high, when you're inspired, when people are cheering you on. That's easy, anyone can do that, but discipline, real discipline, that shows up when the feeling's gone. It's cold, you're tired, you're discouraged, nobody's watching, no one's clapping, and yet you still show up. You still do the work. That's the moment that separates people. That's where growth begins. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that feelings should lead our actions. I don't feel motivated today. I don't feel like practicing. I don't feel like working. But feelings are fleeting. They're unreliable. They rise and fall like the tide. Discipline is what keeps you moving when the tide is low. It's not that feelings don't matter. They do. They're signals, but they should never be the driver. Your commitment has to be stronger than your mood. Your purpose has to be louder than your excuses. And that takes maturity. That takes emotional intelligence. That takes discipline. There's a concept in psychology called delayed gratification. It's the ability to resist the temptation of immediate pleasure for the sake of a greater reward later. It's one of the strongest predictors of success in life. And discipline is the muscle that makes delayed gratification possible. Because discipline doesn't ask, "What do I want now?" It asks, "What do I want most?" And sometimes you're not going to want it. You're not going to want to study. You're not going to want to train. You're not going to want to wake up early or stay late, but you do it anyway, not because it feels good, but because it's necessary. That's the difference between professionals and amateurs, between leaders and followers, between the ones who talk about potential and the ones who live it out. It's discipline that gets you to do the work regardless of the weather, the mood, the circumstances. Let me break it down for you. Discipline says, I don't need to feel ready. I just need to be responsible. It says, I don't wait for the right time. I create the right habit. It says, I don't chase comfort. I chase growth. So don't ask yourself, do I feel like it? Ask yourself, who do I want to become? Because the version of you you're trying to build, that future you, that person doesn't just show up when it's easy. That person is forged in the hard days, the quiet hours, the disciplined choices no one else sees. And here's the truth. If you only work when you feel like it, you'll never build the life you dream of. So do it tired, do it uncertain, do it unmotivated, but do it anyway. Now let me tell you something that a lot of people don't want to hear. You don't need to be the smartest in the room. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be born with something magical. What will separate you from the crowd is consistency. Consistency beats intensity every single time. See, we love the big moment, the grand performance, the viral success. But what we don't see, what's rarely posted, rarely praised, is the quiet, repetitive grind behind it all. The hours of practice when no one's watching. The discipline to keep doing the ordinary, long before it ever looks extraordinary. Talent is a spark, but consistency, that's the flame. And if you feed that flame every day, just a little at a time, it becomes something unstoppable. The truth is, talent without consistency is like a car with no gas. Looks good, might even start up for a bit, but it's not going anywhere. It stalls, it fades. But if you show up every day, even with a little less talent than the next person, you will surpass them. Not because you're better, but because you're still there. Let's talk about identity for a second. What you do consistently, day after day, becomes who you are. If you write every day, even badly, eventually, you become a writer. If you train every day, even when progress feels slow, eventually you become an athlete, not because you were born with it, but because you chose it, over and over again. There's power in routine. There's strength in showing up. That's how you build trust in yourself. That's how you build momentum. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen your identity. You begin to believe, yes, I'm the kind of person who follows through. And that belief, that's the foundation of greatness. So don't get caught up in the comparison game. Don't waste time looking sideways at people who seem to be moving faster than you. Stay on your path. Build your habits. Water your garden. Because consistency compounds, it stacks over time, and one day, people will look at you and say, wow, how'd you get so good? And all you'll be able to say is, I never stopped showing up. Let this sink in. You don't have to be exceptional every day, you just have to be present. And if you keep showing up day after day, even when it's hard, even when it's slow, even when no one notices, your time will come. Because the people who win, they're not always the most talented. They're just the ones who didn't quit. You know, people love to celebrate talent like it's everything, like it's the whole story, and sure, talent is a gift, no doubt about that. But here's the truth, a gift is something you're given, discipline is something you give yourself. You don't get to choose your starting point in life. Some people are born with certain advantages, athletic ability, sharp intellect, artistic instinct, that's fine, but the moment you start depending on what you were born with instead of taking ownership over what you're building, you give your power away. Discipline is what puts the power back in your hands. Because talent is passive, it waits to be noticed, but discipline is active. It steps forward, it takes control, it says, this is my life, this is my craft, this is my responsibility. And that mindset, that shift from entitlement to ownership, that's where everything begins to change. In philosophy, they call this moral agency, the idea that you're not just a product of your circumstances, but a participant in shaping your future. You have the capacity to act, to choose, to shape your character. And your habits, your discipline, are the tools you use to do that. Talent is a starting line, not a guarantee, but discipline, that's how you run the race, that's how you finish the race, and more importantly, that's how you grow from it. Discipline is the act of saying yes to responsibility, even when it's heavy, especially when it's heavy. Now, responsibility isn't a glamorous word, it's not flashy, it doesn't trend, but it's the root of every kind of greatness. Because when you take responsibility for your time, your energy, your effort, your focus, that's when you begin to shape your future on purpose. And the truth is, no one's going to do it for you. People can encourage you. They can inspire you, they can teach you, but they can't discipline you. That part is yours. You've got to be the one to say, no excuses, no shortcuts, No one else is responsible for my effort but me. Because a gift without discipline is like a car without a driver. It might look good sitting there, but it's not going anywhere. Discipline is what gets behind the wheel and drives it forward day after day, mile after mile. So yes, honor your talent, respect it, but don't rely on it. Rely on your work, rely on your choices, rely on your discipline, because talent may be a gift, but discipline is your obligation. And if you want to become someone you can be proud of, you've got to take ownership of the process. Every single day,